Welcome back to Fourth Down Talk, the show where every down counts and so does your opinion. Again, with you today is your host, Albert. You also call me ABM. And we're back here with the co-host, Extra Crispy Chris. Tell everyone how you're doing after this holiday weekend.
I'm doing okay. I've had some time to mourn the loss of my 49ers season. It's okay. Injuries. But as far as football goes, feeling good, man. There's nothing like this cold weather, hard-nosed football. We are barreling towards the playoffs, and I'm really excited to see who's coming out on top here.
All right. It has been definitely a pretty good season so far for the most part. Well, for some teams, I don't know. From my personal opinion, there's been a lot of bad teams, probably some of the worst football, but you know what? We're going to get right into it. But hey, if you like our channel, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. We're going to be trying to do these frequently and often, making sure that we keep you up to date on any and all things that are football and football related. But let's go ahead and get right into it. This past week saw some amazing games, as well as some controversial plays and hits. I actually do want to start with something real quick. Trevor Lawrence, the suspension that just happened. Really, the question comes down to this. This is not a new thing that's coming to the league with these dirty hits and stuff like that. Should there be different penalties to waiver this type of behavior, or what's a good way to try to prevent this from happening? Because that was a targeted hit, came right for his forearm to knock out Trevor Lawrence. It was brutal. I can't say the guy's name. What's his name?
Aziz Al-Shaair.
Yeah, Al Jazeera, which is a news program. That's not his name, but nonetheless, what do you make of this, honestly?
I see. It might be different for me. I have a different view on Aziz because he was on my team. He was a 49er. He was a solid linebacker for us, but he does have a reputation. He does. This is not the first dirty hit he's had. It's not. I can't say he's innocent here. I saw the play. I tried to be as objective as I could about it, but he led with his forearm. And the argument is he was going into his tackling motion at the same time Trevor was sliding. But even if that's the case, the rules say you can't do that. You can't. And the hit was the hit, man. Like, that was a nasty hit that Trevor took. And I don't know, man, it kind of bothered me that the teams just kind of started fighting instead of kind of tending to Trevor. Yeah.
It was like it's kind of hilarious, honestly.
He did get a 3-game suspension. But I think he only got the suspension because this wasn't his first offense. I think had he done this and it wasn't the first time he had done it, I think they might have let him off with a fine. But no, I think 3 games in this case is fair. Next time, if he does it again, it should be more severe. And if he does it again after that, it's the whole season. Like, you can't keep doing that. Now, I get it from a defender. When I played football, granted, that was a long time ago, I was also on defense. I know what it's like to not be able to hit someone because you're going to get flagged for it. You're going to get penalized. That's just part of how the game is played. The game is currently skewed towards offense. And if you're a defender, it just kind of sucks to be you right now. You got to learn how to tackle. You can't hip drop tackle. You can't late hit. You can't lead into the helmet. You got to control your body. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you have to do it.
Is it possible that the suspension really happened? Granted, it's a dirty hit. I'll say it's a dirty hit, but it really kind of picked up a lot of steam because it's a quarterback. What if he took that hit on a running back? Would it have been the same type of suspension?
It's 100% because he's a quarterback. If he had hit a running back, a wide receiver, a tight end, it would be a big deal, but it wouldn't be this level of a big deal. Because let's be honest for a second. There's a lot of outcry for this hit on Trevor Lawrence. How many of these people actually watch the game? Nobody's watching Jaguars-Texans games, all right, besides Jaguars and Texans
fans. Yeah, really, seriously. I'd be hard-pressed to catch this game myself. That was the only thing about the game I did catch, and even then, that was on a replay.
I saw it on the red zone replay, yeah.
Yeah, right? I didn't really catch any of that. But I just wanted to start off with that because that was big news. He did get suspended for a number of games. But we're going to jump right into the original topic, which is based on this week's performance right now. Josh Allen, they got in front for the MVP conversation. I am a big proponent of Lamar Jackson being the MVP. I'm biased towards the Ravens this year. This year I am. And he's a good player, right? His stats are better than they were last year. But, the
Right.
MVP talk kind of shifts as the season goes on. I swear
It does.
it's a prisoner of the moment situation. 1 week is Shaquan, then it's Lamar, then it's Josh Allen. You know what? If the Bengals are playing well, it'd probably be Joe Burrow, but here
It
they
should
are.
be Joe Burrow.
Right?
In all honesty, based on his stats, it should be Burrow, but they have a losing record.
So, with that being said, who do you have as leading in the MVP category? In fact, I'll give you the whole run of top three. Who's your top three picks for the MVP?
I do think Lamar is kind of being disrespected. I think he was in the race firmly until that loss to the Eagles. I think the Eagles loss that's one of those games where it takes you out. Much like last year when Lamar beat Brock Purdy in the 49ers, it took Brock out of the conversation. This kind of took Lamar out of the conversation, but I don't think that's fair. His stats are better than they were last year when he won MVP. Like, that blows my mind. But right now, he's my number 2. I do have Josh Allen as the number 1 for multiple reasons. He's had a stellar season himself. He's cut down on the one big negative thing about him that we had, which was he led the league in interceptions. Now he has 5 throughout this point of the year. That's pretty low for him. And a few weeks ago, he only had like 1 or 2. He's had those 3 or 4 interceptions in the last 5 games. He is leading his division. They already won the division title. This is their 5th division title in a row. He is playing really good football, and he's arguably doing it with a worse cast than any of the other people in the MVP race. Because who are his wide receivers? Khalif Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins. These guys are all cast-offs from other teams. They weren't number 1s. They're barely number 2s on a lot of teams. And he has James Cook, who's a solid running back. But the real X factor on the Bills is Josh Allen. It's him. So he's my number 1. Lamar is firmly at number 2. And then at number 3, I have Saquon. Only because Saquon is putting up mind-blowing numbers. I heard people say he was done. He was washed. He had too many injuries in New York. He wasn't going to be able to be the guy that we thought he was going to be. He goes to the Eagles. He gets a new offensive line, arguably one of the better lines in the league. He gets a better supporting cast, and I think he gets a coaching system that actually believes he can be good. I don't think the Giants believed in him. They didn't pay him. They paid Daniel Jones, and we see how that turned out. But no, those are my top 3. Josh Allen, until further notice, is my number 1. Does it have anything to do with the shellacking he gave the 49ers? Maybe a little. I mean, he is the only guy in NFL history to have rushed, caught, and thrown a touchdown in the same game, which is ridiculous. In the snow, by the way.
It is impressive.
All right. 3. Now, outside of them, it starts to get a little dicey on who could possibly be an MVP candidate after that. I think Derrick Henry is in the conversation, but he's kind of being outshined by Saquon, and to a certain extent, he's being outshined by Lamar. That's the problem when you have 2 really good players on the same team. Interestingly enough, I don't know where Jalen Hurts is in that MVP conversation, but I don't think I see his name mentioned as much either.
No, Jalen Hurts hasn't really been picking up any type of steam as far as the MVP. It's been mainly on Saquon Barkley. There was a time in which Sirianni, he had his whole head on the table. He was sitting on the hot seat for a moment. He start winning games, and all of a sudden, it's a whole different discussion. Saquon Barkley has definitely stepped up to help that team. As I mentioned, I do like Lamar. I don't know. I'm going to be biased still. Look, I understand the Josh Allen team is currently ahead. They have 10 wins compared to the Ravens' 8 wins. But look, Lamar Jackson he has what? Oh, let me pull up his stats real quick. But his
stats are really good.
He only has 3 interceptions. And when you look at those 3 interceptions, they are all tipped interceptions. No bad passes. Josh Allen threw 5 in a single game. So that's one of the reasons I don't like that idea. Not only that, let me just pull up the yards. Of course, he has 3,200 yards this year, along with 29 touchdowns. So that to me does stand out quite frequently. It's just I can understand Lamar not getting it because of voter fatigue, which I think would be the biggest detriment towards him. But I mean, if your stats are better than the year you won the MVP, I find it really hard not to put him in that conversation, unless the Derrick Henry thing comes in and prevents it, because he is just that dynamic of a player.
It's really interesting, the subject of the MVP conversation, because Lamar should be a lot higher on the people's lists. But people point out the team's record. Like, well, that's not Lamar's fault that the defense is bad. And their defense is bad, by the way. It's bad. They're like 25th, 24th, somewhere in there. But the argument is he should be able to overcome that. Now, the Bills, last time I checked, the Bills were kind of middle of the pack on defense. Now, they might have gotten a boost after the last game, but they were like 15th or 17th before. So they're mid on defense, but they're strong on offense because of Josh Allen. The argument I've also heard and seen is Lamar has a better cast around him. Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry. I don't really know who their other wide receivers are. They have Mark Andrews, they have Isaiah Likely. And isn't Odell? No, Odell's on the Dolphins. He's not.
Yeah, he's not Odell. There we go.
But that's the thing. I still think the cast of support on the Ravens is better than the cast of support on the Bills. So,
all right,
that's going to hold him back.
Maybe. The thing about the MVP conversation is that it is a week-by-week conversation piece.
It is.
I tell you because, last year, you talk about McCaffrey, what was it, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy. They were all in the conversation until one game. It was that one Christmas Day game. Lamar ran through the 49ers, and then almost that game is what gave him the MVP because the conversation completely changed his tone from that standpoint.
And they still they had 4 picks in that game, and they still only won by less than 2 scores.
Oh, because they're using the Shaquan Barkley stat. And then, even then, also Lamar Jackson has 678 rushing yards with 6.1 attempts. I don't know. The guy to me is 334.
Less than I thought, actually.
Yeah. To put more context into this, Josh Allen does have 6 rushing touchdowns compared to Lamar Jackson's 3 rushing touchdowns. Lamar Jackson also has rushed 111 times compared to Josh Allen's 70 attempts. So there's a difference maker in that regard too.
That's the thing you got to look at, though. A lot of the more casual fans, they're not going to look at those stats. They're going to look at their records. They're going to look at the primetime performances, and they're going to look at head-to-head.
Oh, and I was about to say, what about the head-to-head? Yeah, Lamar Jackson has that too.
They throttled the Bills head-to-head. Yeah. Now, granted, that was week 5, but still.
I don't know, because the only thing Josh Allen has beat on Lamar is the record. Lamar has a better completion percentage at 67, more yards, more passing, or a better passing attempt as far as 8.7 to Josh Allen's 7.6 yards per attempt. More passing yards in a game, more touchdowns, less interceptions, a better QBR, more rushing yards. It's just, I don't know. I get it. It'd probably be voter fatigue, like I said. But I guess the other real part of this conversation is this a quarterback award? At what point can another player besides a QB win this award?
I mean, the list of players outside of quarterbacks that won the award is very small. It's really only a few running backs, 1 defender, and a kicker. That's pretty much it.
The kicker has won the award. The kicker won this award.
Yeah. No wide receivers have ever won the MVP award, which is crazy to me. Not even Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice never won the award.
No, honestly, can I get a timeline on this?
I think the last running back was Peterson, wasn't it? Yeah.
From 1959 up until at least now, it's been mainly a quarterback award. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players who have won the MVP. Most of those players are back in the 1960s and 50s. Adrian Peterson is the only other player in the most modern era to win MVP besides. Oh, I take that back.
Damian Thompson,
I take that back. Right? Oh, I take that all the way back. You do have Walter Payton, Earl Campbell, Marcus Allen, Thurman Thomas, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, Terrell Davis, Marshall Faulk, Sean Alexander, Damian Thomas, and Adrian Peterson, who have all won.
But see, those are all running backs, though.
But I'm saying that was it. I was going to say quarterbacks.
Why is it so impossible for any other position to win MVP? I don't understand that.
It's one of those things you got to deep dive and look and see what the stats were that year. That's the only thing I can think of because I'm kind of curious to see how a kicker got it in '82.
Yeah, it was the Washington's kicker, right?
Yeah, but just that wasn't a shortened season. I don't know. It is something to discuss something to think about, only because of the fact that it is a quarterback's award for the most part. Some say the quarterback should have a separate award, just so that the MVP can be opened up some more.
NFL Quarterback Club used to be a game series. Now it's an award. All right, you want to join the quarterback club? You're the best quarterback in the league, buddy.
It's going to be the Peyton Manning Award.
Is it not the Tom Brady Award?
Peyton Manning Award. Peyton Manning Award, because
Johnny Unitas.
I wouldn't mind that, but people are like, who the hell is Johnny Unitas? Too old. But I don't know.
It's the Warren Moon Award. How about that? That's
now we're just reaching. I love Warren Moon. If Warren Moon spent his best years in the NFL instead of in the Canadian League, he might have a Super Bowl. Who knows?
But no, it does feel like it's so quarterback biased that's why I was even reluctant to put Saquon on the list, because Saquon's putting up crazy numbers, wild numbers right now, and he's not going to win. He's not going to win. I just don't feel like he will.
He has to have
he might get a vote, but he's not going to win.
I think he will have to break the 2,000 rushing. He has to break the rushing record.
Would it change if he, let's say he gets to 1,900 and some change, but the Eagles end up taking the first seed?
Okay. Nope.
No?
Nope. Because even if they took the first seed.
What is his touchdown numbers right now?
How many does he have for the season? Right now, he has 11 touchdowns for the year.
That's not record breaking.
No, that's the thing. Even then, that is actually the most touchdowns he's had in a season outside of his 2018 season, his rookie year.
Yeah, because he didn't play a lot of full seasons in
New York. Yeah, tell you the truth, this is probably his best years thus far.
Oh yeah, this is easily statistically his best year. He's never had this many yards.
He's had close. His closest was 2022, because I'm not counting his rookie season, but the closest was 2022, where he had 1,300 yards. He also had 10 touchdowns. He played 16 games in that case. But the stats are much better this year. This is his
1,300 yards. Yeah,
this is his best season as far as a player goes. I don't think it's MVP worthy though. I just don't, from my eyes.
I just don't see them giving it to him.
I feel like it's Josh Allen's to lose, and Lamar Jackson's to be stolen from. This is his MVP year, but we'll see.
That's the thing. Very interestingly, the Bills have not played the Patriots yet. And it doesn't matter how good or bad the Patriots are. They tend to give the Bills fits because it's divisional. If he messes around and loses one of those games or looks bad in one of those games, they could take that away from
him. That is true. And all it takes is a bad performance, especially if those multiple picks. Multiple picks in the game. Let's say he throws another 3 interception game again. It's going to look bad, especially one of a pick 6.
This is the same Josh Allen that lost to the Mac Jones Patriots when they passed the ball 3 times. All right,
that did happen. That was a weird game.
That was a very weird game.
All right, but we're going to get more. We're going to get more into the MVP conversation, but before we complete it, because we're going to be talking about the playoff teams, I want to know, Chris, who do you have in your top 10 this week?
The top 10 has done some shifting, and not upset at it. It does. I'm just going to preface this right now to say it feels very strange to not have the 2-time defending, division-leading 11-1 Chiefs not at the top of my list. Not even second place.
Frauds.
The way they're winning is just so out of control. I just don't understand how this keeps happening.
Frauds.
Black magic. They did a fraudulent. It could be very fraudulent. It's just,
I said that. That was
voodoo. The slip of the tongue.
Oh, that was just no. Just thinking about fraudulent.
We're going 10-1 or 1-10 here.
Oh, 10-1. We got to count up to the countdown. If that makes any sense.
Number 10. Still hanging on. This is kind of their last chance to be in the top 10. If they lose again, they're going out. And it is the Commanders. Ooh. Now, they were on such a hot streak. They were, 7-3 at one point? Now they're 8-5. They're losing more than they're winning in the recent weeks. And this is the hard part of the year. This is the tough, cold weather, prove who you really are kind of time of the year. So if you start losing, granted, Jaden's a rookie. That's the only thing about it. He's a rookie. I'll give him some slack. But you can't start out so hot and then just fall apart. Come on, guys. You got to get it together.
All right.
So they're sitting at number 10, possibly going to drop out if they continue to falter. But right now, they're second in their division, only back to the Eagles, and it's kind of hard to beat them right now.
Interesting. All right. Number 9.
Number 9, Jim Harbaugh's Chargers. The Chargers are still quietly kind of, keeping pace in their division. This is a division that has 3 decent teams in it right now, and they're number 2, in my opinion, in that division. And they have the Chiefs this week. They somehow pull off this win, and they might shoot up the list a little more, or the Chiefs could just drop. Because I've seen 11-1 teams look really bad, Kansas City. So we're going to see where this plays out. But no, Jim Harbaugh's Chargers, I do miss Jim Harbaugh. I am glad to see him still keeping that defensive front going. Justin Herbert is being used more sparingly, I noticed. He's not airing the ball out like he used to, but he's also not making a lot of mistakes. So I can't fault him.
They got a good run game going over there. He's got a balanced offense in that system. I tell you, Jim Harbaugh is a difference maker. That's a coach you do kind of want, although he also has a stigma, especially in the big leagues, where he doesn't always win the big game himself, but he can definitely turn a franchise around.
He can definitely turn a franchise around very quickly. This is the first year, and they already look like a completely different Chargers team.
Yeah, they look competent, but they won't just choke a game away. All right. Number 8.
Number 8. And it kind of pains me to have them down here this far, but the Baltimore Ravens are number 8 on my list right now.
Number 8. Wow.
Number 8.
Disrespect.
It's not disrespect, man. They've been losing. They got to stop doing that. All right. They're 8-5. They have now lost control of their division. They no longer control their own destiny because of another team that's on this list, which we will get to. But I need them to pick it up over these last 5 weeks. Like, they can't end the season any worse than 10-7. Like, you got to do better than that. They're 8-5.
Hey, man. Those games they lost, look, if they had a kicker that was worth a damn, maybe that record would be different, because let's be real about that. They lost a couple of those games based on a kicker not being able to get the ball into the uprights.
Have we reached the point where Justin Tucker has lost to father time? Because he went from Mr. Reliable to, I don't know if he's even going to keep them in games anymore.
I mean, look, the Steelers game, they lost by 2. If Justin Tucker makes 1 kick, already they have 9 wins.
It's a different conversation, yeah. And then the Steelers don't have 9 wins, so then they would still be in control of the division. So, yeah, maybe it's time they start looking to work out a kicker, because Tucker, over the past 2 seasons, has gotten progressively worse. This is the worst he's looked. I think it might just be time to hang his cleats up. It might be time, Justin.
Yeah, Justin Tucker is kicking at 70%. His career average is 87%. Mind you, he has missed extra points. He's never missed an extra point. Never missed an extra point. He's missed an extra point this year. It ain't looking good.
Every time he misses, he always has this weird wide-eyed look on his face, too. Like, he can't believe it. He's surprised.
Well, he never misses. Like, to miss is a shock. It is much a shock. He never missed seriously? Amazing. Okay.
I mean, I'd still take him over Jake Moody, but that's a different conversation.
All right, we got number 7.
Number 7. Still hanging around. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't expect them to still be here. That's the Minnesota Vikings. Still kind of kicking around, yeah. They are, in my opinion, the worst of the powerhouses in the NFC North, but they are still there, and they could still very much make the playoffs.
Are you considering Green Bay to be a powerhouse?
They're better than the Vikings are.
The Vikings are
Green
10-2.
Bay's won like 6 in a row.
Yeah, I know. Okay. I hear you, but I know
Minnesota.
I know, but all I kept hearing earlier was how when Jordan Love played, they lose. Now all of a sudden, it's like, I don't know. I hear so many mixed opinions about Green Bay. That's why I don't know if I consider them a powerhouse, because no one ever sounds confident in what they say about Green Bay.
Do you trust Jordan Love more than you trust Sam Darnold? That's what it's going to come down to.
I trust the Vikings as a team more than I trust whatever Green Bay's putting out there. because Green Bay has shown more inconsistency from a standpoint that, again, if Jordan Love's out there, they tend to lose. But if they put out the other kid, Malik, then all of a sudden they win. It's like, I don't know. Quite frankly, neither one of those teams are going to beat Detroit. But if you ask me to choose between the two, I think it could probably be whoever has home field advantage. If the Vikings have home field advantage, I think it could be Green Bay.
This is what it comes down to for me.
When
they're in a situation where you have to have a quarterback make a play, and there is a lot of pressure on them, I think Green Bay is better in that situation. Man, it's not by a lot. Don't get me wrong. You're going to see really quickly on this list, it's not by a lot. It's just by enough that I think the Packers have a better squad to pull out a win more than Vikings do. The Packers have a deeper wide receiver core, and the Vikings' biggest Achilles heel, outside of Sam Darnold, we'll get to that, is Aaron Jones. Why do you think the Packers got rid of him? He fumbled like 3 times over the past 2 games. Now, granted, he also had a game-winning touchdown in one of those games, but still, the fumbles are picking up this more the season goes on. Plus, he's already missed several games due to, injury and fatigue. He's getting up there. He's an older player. But I think Josh Jacobs is currently better than him. I think Jordan Love is better than Sam Darnold. I think the Packers wide receivers are better. Coaching is kind of in the middle for me. I think they're both solid coaches. Kevin O'Connell and Matt LaFleur, I think they're both solid young coaches. So to me, it just comes down to who I think looks better on paper, and I think Green Bay looks better on paper.
All right. Just want to point out that Green Bay is coming off a 3-game winning streak after losing to Detroit in the bye week, while the Vikings are still on their 5-game winning streak.
Yeah, but the Vikings also almost lost to the Jaguars with Mac Jones. They got lucky on that. So there's some iffy games in there from both sides.
Yeah, I thought a win was a win.
Is it, though?
I don't know. The Chiefs are number 4. You tell me, is it, though? Wait, I'm sorry. I'm giving up your list. Go ahead. Let's run through it.
Number 6, just above the Vikings, is the Packers. All right?
There we go. We can continue the conversation then. Let's take it from the Packers standpoint. Let's do it. All right. So the Packers, let's have at it. They did beat the Dolphins.
Back-to-back blowout wins. All right.
That's fair.
Solid blowout win. Now, you can say they beat the Niners, but they weren't the Niners when they beat them. But still, 38-10 is 38-10. All right, it is what it is. They did lose to Detroit. Yes, their first time. But they also lost to Detroit last year the first time they played them. And then the second time they played them, they smacked them right in Jared Goff's tiny hands, and they won. And it was in Detroit. So, I don't know. They still got one more game against them left. And if they win that game, I don't know, man. It might be a very interesting playoff performance from the both of them. It really is going to come down to home field advantage, which currently Detroit would have going into the playoffs.
Mind you, they will be playing their next game against Detroit in Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I know.
And I also do want to point out that the Vikings did beat Green Bay early this season, too.
They did.
I want to put that out there.
No, I get it. I got you.
There will be another game, though, between the two. Second to the last week. In fact, Green Bay will be closing out the season against their division rivals. They will have Week 17 against the Vikings and Week 18 against the Bears.
That whole division was backloaded with divisional games for some reason.
Yeah, because the Vikings will be ending out their Week 17 with the Packers, but then Week 18 against the Lions. Actually, no, I think and they all got Week 15 against the Bears. They got all 3 of their division rivals with the Seahawks in between. Really weird.
That's why the Bears had the hardest schedule left, because almost all their games were divisional outside of the 49ers in Seattle.
No. What's going to happen with the Bears?
They're not looking as good as people thought. They had to fire their coach. They fired their OC. It's bad. It's a bad look right now.
Oh.
Smart Money does say they beat the Niners, though, this week.
Ooh, could it not be a well, we'll see. That is a 425 game. That's going to be an interesting one. We're going to get 2 predictions, though. That's going to be an interesting game. I don't know. I might want to pick the Niners. I don't trust the Bears. They get to have a new coach.
Of course I want to pick the Niners. If the Niners, we'll get to this in a second, but if the Niners lose to an interim head coach, I don't care who's out on the team. Kyle, you are supposed to be better than this. All right? I don't care who they put in there, unless it's Bill Belichick himself with the incarnation of Tom Brady. It's not happening, bro. You should win this game. I'm getting off my soapbox.
All right. Well, in that case, was it number 6?
We're in number 5. We're in the top 5.
Oh, 5. I'm sorry. Yeah. Breaking into the top 5. All right.
Number 5. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Ooh. Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited. All right. He is come out of nowhere and just made the Steelers look really, really damn good. I don't know, man. I was told by multiple sports analysts that Russell Wilson was washed. Russell Wilson was done. That's why they started Justin Fields over him. But as good as Justin Fields looked, he had the system looking okay. But he can't throw the ball like Russell can. He can't. Russell has even though he tormented my team with it for several years, he has one of the prettiest deep balls in the game. Pause. But he has one of the best rainbow shots you can throw. He really does. I don't know how he does it. Yeah, just this perfect arc hits you right in the numbers. Yeah. No one else does it like him. And with that defense they have, it's woken up George Pickens. I don't really care for him that much. He has a bit of an attitude problem, but he's a good wide receiver. Pat Freiermuth has also come alive again. He woke up the tight end position. The Steelers are a solid team. Shout out to Mike Tomlin for 17 straight years without a losing record. That is going to be mentioned in his Hall of Fame speech.
It's very impressive. No other coach, to my knowledge, has that type of record. I mean, honestly.
No.
Yeah.
No Andy Reid, no Bill Belichick. None of those guys have that. They don't have that accolade.
Not your Don Shula's and whoever else you want to throw at me. Your Vince Lombardi's and all them. No.
I mean, when you think about it, the longevity of Tomlin's career, coupled with the fact that he does have 2 Super Bowl wins, that's impressive.
Definitely.
Wait,
definitely.
Does he have 2 Super Bowl wins?
No, he has 1 because Bill Cowher won the other one. He has 2 Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he has 2 appearances because Aaron Rodgers, baby.
He lost Aaron Rodgers. He beat Kurt Warner. That's right. Well, James Harrison beat the Cardinals. That's what I'm saying.
That was a very that Super Bowl still sticks with me. I had the Cardinals winning that one. That still sticks with me.
They should have won that game, but
I hate that one. Maybe not as much Seattle fans hate the other Steelers win, but that's a total different show.
As a 49ers fan, I don't like sticking up for the Seahawks, but the Seahawks got hosed in that game. They got absolutely screwed over in that Super Bowl, and I will not let that go.
You're absolutely right. Sometimes you feel like the referees be looking out for people when they probably shouldn't. But speaking of which, who's your number 4 again?
Well, that leads right into the 2-time defending champion, 11-1 Voodoo Magic Taylor Swift Chiefs. Right.
Oh, Cheats? Yeah, the Cheats. That's a good name for them. I like that.
This is getting ridiculous. All right, like a bad pre-snap motion leads to them beating the Raiders by 2. A blocked field goal has them beat the Broncos. This is garbage. This is. I don't know how Mahomes has a rabbit's foot up his ass or something. I don't know, but they keep winning. Right.
The power is in the palm, brother. That's where you put the money. That's what Hogan said. That's where the power lies. He said that
but they lost to Buffalo. And
that's true. That's true.
Patrick Mahomes, as good as the Chiefs have looked this year, Patrick Mahomes has not. He is not in my MVP conversation. I don't think he's in everybody's MVP conversation right now. No. His stats are bad for Patrick. I will say that. Like I said, if this was Caleb Williams and their team was 11-1 and they've been playing exactly like Patrick has, we would say he's getting carried by his team. But because we've seen Patrick throw 50 touchdowns in a year, win 2 MVPs, win the Super Bowl twice, win 2 Super Bowl MVPs, we've seen what he can do. So the fact that he's playing this poorly for him, and this is the best record they've ever had at this point in the season. I don't understand that. It's voodoo magic, and I don't like it. All right. I'm not going to be the guy that says they paid off the refs, but I'm also not going to be the guy that says they paid off the refs. So I don't know. I will. It doesn't add up, but they keep winning. I really want the Chargers to beat them this week. I do.
Oh, yeah. That would be amazing. I would love it.
Yeah. 2 losses in a 3-game span would have people start waking up. But until then,
I'm just looking at Patrick Mahomes' numbers because you talk about MVP, and I'm comparing him to Josh Allen. But dude, I'm looking at these numbers. I'm even comparing him to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's getting hosed. I swear to you, he really should be in the MVP conversations. Joe Burrow. I need to take him out the picture. But actually, believe it or not, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes' stats ain't too far apart from each other. They're really close to each other.
Interesting.
Yeah, not too far apart. Mahomes has a better completion percentage.
Yeah, that's a valid question, though. On a side note, should the MVP only count for winning teams? Because the title most valuable player should mean you are the most valuable player on your team. So statistically, Joe Burrow is the most valuable player on his team.
That's true. It's like when Russell Westbrook won the MVP in the NBA. His team didn't have a great record, but he averaged a triple-double. It was a record-breaking thing that no one ever saw recently. Right. But it had never happened again as far as him winning it, even though he kept doing it. You have to do something exceptional if you're going to be part of a team that's not doing well. Joe Burrow has to, especially in football, his record is 4-8. You got to at least make the playoffs. I understand it's league MVP, but you have to be impactful to the point where you can at least get the team to a record, ideally. Not saying it's all his fault, but the team record is what's really going to hold him back. And yeah, you have to have a solid record to be a playoff team if you're going to be MVP contention.
Yeah, because he's put up some crazy numbers in games this year, him and Jamar Chase together. Yeah. But they usually lose those games. That's
the other thing in that regard is that you don't want to have the league MVP be someone that the postseason doesn't have. Because when the casual fans come around and you tell them about the league MVP and they're watching the games, they're like, "Oh, what team is he playing on? Oh, they didn't make the playoffs. But he's the best player but he's the best player in the league."
Yeah, he's one of 53. Them other 52, I don't know what they're doing. But no, it's fair. It's fair to not have him not be in there, but he should be statistically. Like if they had any semblance of a defense, like if Joe Burrow was on the Chargers, then he would be MVP.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He'll be in the conversations, most definitely. Oh, yeah, most definitely. Oh, wow. Let's go. Getting away from the Chiefs, and then moving on to number 3. Who we got there?
Number 3, I kind of went back and forth on this, but I'm going to leave them here for now, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles at number 3. They're the best team in the NFC outside of Detroit. But they're not the best team. They're not top 2, in my opinion. I don't know if they could actually beat any of the top 2 teams on the list, which should be kind of obvious who the top 2 are at this point. But they are statistically right now, they are the only team that is top 10 on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. Earlier in the season, when they were 2-2, people thought that the Eagles were going to fall off again. They looked bad. They had a nasty loss to Tampa Bay earlier in the season. And then the thing started to unravel when Nick Sirianni started chirping at the fans, the media, and other players. Then he cut his hair and he shut his mouth, and they've been on, an 8-game win streak since then?
Yeah.
Looking more and more dominant as the season goes on. They have good rookies. Cooper DeJean looks really good. Saquon Barkley has had a renaissance. Devontae Smith was hurt for a while, and they still managed to win without him. A.J. Brown's having a decent year. Jalen Hurts stopped turning the ball over, which was his biggest Achilles heel. He kept losing the football, and now they look solid. Can they maintain it? We'll see, because I've seen this Eagles team do this same thing already before. They went to the Super Bowl and they lost. Granted, it was to Patrick Mahomes. And the field was wonky, according to what I heard.
Wonky for everyone except the Chiefs, I imagine.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. But to be fair, that was arguably Jalen's best game, was the Super Bowl. Statistically, that was arguably one of his best performances. It just came up a little short.
It was a good performance, though.
Can they do it again is the question. And it does beg the question, if they do make the Super Bowl, and it's not against Kansas City, can they get a W? Because you notice only 2 teams have gone to the Super Bowl in recent years, and the winner was on the NFC side. That was Tom Brady against Patrick, who didn't have any O-linemen, and Matt Stafford when he didn't play Patrick Mahomes. Every other team that's gone up against Mahomes has lost. I know that very well. All right.
Yeah. They are a brick wall for what it's worth. The Chiefs, regardless of which, they are still a brick wall, and they are the defending champs. So until you beat them, I guess you really haven't. I don't know, because we talk about these teams in the AFC: the Ravens, Bills, Steelers. Let's say the playoffs begin today. Do you feel like any of these teams have a solid chance against the Chiefs?
The Ravens, I'm not sure they do. Only because that defense is very, very suspect. And they already lost to him this year. Granted, that was week 1. But, they lost on a stupid, fluky reason, which I believe would be how they lose again. They'd lose on something stupid and fluky. Because the Chiefs' defense, Steve Spagnuolo, I'll give him his credit. While their offense hasn't looked great, their defense has generally held people in check. They haven't had a ton of high-scoring opponents because their defense is really good at disguising looks. They'll go to the line in one formation, and when the ball's snapped, they'll switch to a different one. They can switch between zone and man, and when their lineup reads, it's hard. Other quarterbacks have also said this time of year, or playing them this year, I didn't know what that look was. It was like a disguised look, and when the ball was snapped, it changed. So I don't think the Ravens can beat them when it matters, unfortunately. Lamar has not shown me he can do that yet. The Steelers are going to be very interesting because that game is coming up. Christmas Day, we have the Steelers and the Chiefs, and I think that's going to answer a couple questions for some people because I don't know how many times Mahomes and Russell have gone head-to-head outside of his time in Denver, and last time he played them, he did beat them. That is true. Russell Wilson did beat Patrick the last time they went head-to-head.
Well, also the question is, how does Patrick Mahomes do against the Steelers? I'm pretty sure he's ran into them a few times.
He's had to play him at least a couple times at this point, I'm guessing.
I can figure out. But I'm gonna take a look into that and see if we can figure out who's next on the list here. Number 2.
Number 2 is the Buffalo Bills. The division winning. They won their division on Sunday night 5 times in a row. Now, granted, we used to give Tom Brady a lot of flack for having a bad division. I don't know if he's ever been in a version of this division that was this bad.
That's fair.
Like 10 wins for Buffalo or 9 wins for them, and the other teams in the division have 4 or 5 at most.
I think Brady has kind of benefited off of this because the Dolphins didn't have much. The Jets were struggling pre-Sanchez and even post-Sanchez. And the Bills.
When is the Jets struggling?
Well, I'm saying, when were the Bills not struggling prior to Josh Allen? Brady made a career eating off of this bad division, and now it's Josh Allen's turn. You get fed off of this.
No, I mean, 5 division wins in a row is impressive, but when it's against bad teams, I mean, the Jets have had 9 losing seasons in a row. 9
in a row. This is supposed to be the team that is. Oh my God. Rodgers, I think it ain't helping, huh? What's happened to the Rodgers thing? Oh yeah, that's
Rodgers needs to go, and I don't mean to another team. Rodgers needs to go back in his cave, do his ayahuasca, and show up on his podcast to be a conspiracy theorist. It's done.
Oh wow, putting people in retirement homes. I tell you, listen to this guy.
Have you watched any of their games? I mean, it's the Jets, so I don't know why you would. But if you've seen any of his performances, they're bad.
It ain't the best.
How do you have Garrett Wilson? You have Breece Hall, 2 of the best young players at their position, wide receiver and running back, and you can't get them the ball? Like, at all? You can't do that? You got Devontae Adams out there. You can't get Garrett Wilson. There's not a lot of teams who have that great secondaries to cover a number 1 and a number 2. So if you're not getting them the ball, that's kind of on you, unless your O-line is that bad. And if your O-line is that bad, why do you have a 40-year-old quarterback back there?
Oh, what else I heard? I even heard the Sauce Gardner stat, or isn't it looking as good as he did on the defensive side as well?
And that's what I heard before the season. Oh man, the Jets defense is so good. They were saying in practice that Rodgers had those guys on the same page. They were cooking. They were doing all this stuff. Rodgers was bringing this team back. And here we are They have one of the worst records in the league. Their head coach has been fired. Their offensive coordinator has been demoted, and they just look bad. Right? Ugh,
They look
disgusting.
like a horrible rendition of the team. They put so much money into it, but this ain't about the Jets. I'm sorry, we got so
it's
lost
about
in the
the
Jets.
Bills. Yeah,
that's right. Jets are just
the Bills,
that bad,
and they won their division 5 times in a row, but they didn't have a lot of competition. So we kind of expected them to win their division this year. Maybe Tua would have given them some trouble if he had been healthy, but as we've seen, once he goes down, the Dolphins are not a team anymore.
Yeah, they are.
So no, I respect Josh Allen for bucking the system and still dominating the division, even though he doesn't have the best supporting cast. Like, he arguably has a worse supporting cast than the Dolphins do, than the Jets do. Maybe not the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots have a good team. But no, congrats to Josh Allen on knocking off the Chiefs' streak, which I think did firmly place him back in the MVP conversation. I think if they had lost that game, he wouldn't be number one in MVP votes right now, or in the Vegas system anyway.
No, exactly. Like I said, I think it was just that game. Usually when players do well in the snow, all of a sudden they become MVP candidates.
A 35-10 win, even though most of it was James Cook running, still a win. Remember, Giselle once said, "My husband cannot throw and catch the ball at the same time." Well, I don't know if she was watching that game, but I saw Josh Allen do it.
Oh, hey. Some things are possible. Just for Brady, it isn't. I mean, you saw what he tried to do he tried to do a Philly special in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It didn't look that special to me.
Yeah.
All right.
And that only leaves number one. The kneecap biting, Dan Gamble believing, Jared Goff led Detroit Lions.
The Detroit Lions finally getting the number one spot.
I have lived through a lot of sports anomalies. I have seen the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. I have seen the Red Sox break their streak. All right. I have seen a lot of things I did not expect to see. And I never would have thought I would see the Detroit Lions being the best team in football. It's a wild time we're living in. Well, but it's true. They have a coach that believes in them. He's believed in them when they were a 1-win team. He believed in them when they were a 4-win team. Now they're one of the best consistent winning teams in the league. They lost Aiden Hutchinson. And surprisingly, their defense got better. Yeah, right? Statistically, they've been better since he went down. How does that even work? He was one of the best defenders in the league at his position, especially. And when he went down, they got better. It's wild. They have some of the best skill position players, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, a running back by committee. They don't overuse either one of them. Kyle. We'll get to that in a second. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jared Goff has looked good this year. He looked really good this past couple seasons. It's one of the wildest situations where I think a trade helped both teams. The Rams got Matt Stafford. They immediately won a Super Bowl. The Lions got Jared Goff. It took them a season or so, but now they're one of the best teams in the league. They don't show any signs of slowing down on this either, by the way. They could be a solid team for the next few years. Now, will they have playoff success? That's a better question. That's a different story. A lot of the NFC North has run into issues by facing West teams in the playoffs, particularly the 49ers. But since the 49ers are not in that picture this year, it really is going to be an interesting race to see who in the North comes out on top. Lions are there. Packers are there. The Vikings are technically there, but whatever. I don't believe in them. I just believe that they have their good record right now. So.
Well, just for context, the Vikings did win the NFC Championship game with Case Keenum. The Vikings have this weird stink of a miracle that can kind of linger on them. I don't know. Anything can happen. It's a one game.
Anything could happen. They got Daniel Jones now.
Oh, man, that's it right there, then. Ask Greg Jennings. That's one of the top 10 QBs in the league.
Listen,
why are we still starting on Sam Darnold?
All I'm saying is when it comes to the playoffs and Sam Darnold gets hurt and they got to bring in Daniel Jones to
Secret
beat
weapon.
the Eagles. There it is. It's going to happen. All right.
Secret weapon. Oh,
because everybody goes. I do have one thing I want to say, and because I've heard a lot of flack about Daniel Jones over the past several weeks. I just want to say we also heard a lot of flack about Sam Darnold at one point, and we also heard a lot of flack about Baker Mayfield at some point. Hell, I even heard flack about Jared Goff at certain points. And now look at them. They're on different teams. They're all doing well. Baker's not doing as well. He lost his receivers, but still. They all look better than they did on the teams they were drafted by, and they all look better than their current situations than they did when they were drafted. So I'm not giving up on Daniel Jones. I don't believe he's top 10 like Greg Jennings said, but he's at least like he could be a 13. He could be a 12. I think it's possible.
Wow.
He could be. I didn't say he was.
Look. So you know what? I gotta tell you, Daniel Jones is a weird, unique person. He has I guess you could say the arm. He's quick, but he's missing what you can call intangibles, or what I like to call talent. He isn't he's a backup QB. He is. I don't think he's a reclamation project that anyone can fix. I think he is who he is. Like, this is just it. You had a hot take about the 49ers taking on Daniel Jones and then improving. I like the idea of a Trevor Lawrence. Dude, if you get Daniel Jones, you might as well start calling back CJ Beathard. Hold on a second. Get Sam Darnold back on that team if you're going to have that type of confidence.
Listen, Sam Darnold was on that team, and he didn't look good. He doesn't run Kyle's scheme well. As a side note, I do have to say, because the rumors are picking back up, and I just get a bad feeling this might happen, Kyle Shanahan loves Kirk Cousins. The Atlanta Falcons have come out and said Kirk Cousins' future on this team depends on these last 5 or 6 games. And in the last game they just played, he threw 4 interceptions. All I'm saying is there's a very strong possibility that if the Niners don't want to give Brock Purdy that money, that they will trade for Kirk Cousins in the offseason.
Now, who would you rather have, Kirk Cousins or Daniel Jones?
Daniel. At this point in their career, Daniel. Why? Yeah. Because what has Brock Purdy done to keep every play alive? He runs. Kirk isn't doing that. You've seen what happens when you put a quarterback in Kyle's system who doesn't like to run. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't like to run. Brandon Allen against the Packers didn't run. CJ Beathard was not a runner. Nick Mullins, not a runner. Kyle needs someone who can move. Daniel Jones can move. Trevor Lawrence still has surprising quickness in him. Kirk Cousins at 36, 37 years old is not the answer. Maybe Kirk Cousins when he originally wanted him, which was 2017, that's when he wanted him, but we ended up with Jimmy Garoppolo instead. Not now, Kyle. No, don't pull the Jets move and get the old quarterback you think is going to help you. It's going to hurt you. You're going to go out bad. Don't do that. I would stick with Purdy well before I brought in Kirk Cousins.
I hear you. Now, listen, I'm not saying Kirk Cousins is he's not a long-term solution to any degree. He feels like a one-year rental, much like how the Falcons are doing it. I can see the point in Daniel Jones being a long-term placement holder. I don't know about solution. That's a big word. I don't trust Daniel Jones. I guess that's what it comes down to.
That's the thing. I totally understand that. I get the merit of not trusting Daniel Jones. Just like I got it before when people said you couldn't trust Baker Mayfield. Just like I understood when they said you couldn't trust Sam Darnold. Man was out there seeing ghosts, right? Yeah. Now look at him. I believe it's possible to turn him around. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 or anything like that. If you put him in the right system, he can at least find success.
Okay. All right. I hear you. Listen, I don't think he has the intangibles, but okay.
Listen, Geno Smith was written off as well, and he's currently leading his division. All right.
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. It was a good 1 year. Now it's kind of he's leading the division, which you can make a case ain't a great division. No, I don't know. Hey, listen, we'll see. Time will tell. We'll see if he even steps on the field for the Vikings. Because the Vikings seem to I won't say have Sam Darnold looking like a real pro, but he ain't looking like a complete buffoon out there.
I don't think Sam Darnold's staying. I think if they keep anybody, they're going to test out J.J. McCarthy because he did get hurt. That is their rookie.
That's their guy.
They're going to see how well he plays. And then I think if he gets his starting role back, which is what is possibly on the table, I think him and Daniel stay and Sam goes. That's what I think.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's not a bad prediction, but we'll see. Well, hey, that was the top 10. Hey, if you like the top 10, definitely comment. Go ahead and give me your thoughts. If you hated the top 10 or you feel like a team got snubbed or didn't belong, go ahead and put that in the comments as well. We'd love to hear from you because
I'm trying to hear about no snubs. Nobody got snubbed. Nobody cares that the Seahawks are leading their division. Nobody cares that the Texans are leading their division. Nobody believes. You can lie and say you believe in them. Nobody does. They're not going to win any playoff games. So it's fine. They're just placeholders.
You know, you didn't mention Atlanta. They also winning or had their division too.
They might not even win their division, all right? Because Tampa Bay is not going away, and they got Mike Evans back, all right?
Wow, there's
look
a lot
at
of
that.
bad
We
football.
could have a situation where Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield are all in the playoffs at the same time. That's crazy.
I tell you, it's some of the worst football ever. But hey, speaking of the playoffs, transition into that. We got to talk about the playoff picture and as it stands. Because as of right now, if the playoffs were to start today, we know the number one teams would be the Lions and the Chiefs. Yeah. Now, in your first set of wild card games in the NFC, you have your Vikings versus the Falcons. And in your first game of AFC Championship, AFC wild card games, you'll have the Chargers and the Texans. Next, you'll have Green Bay and Seattle. AFC, you'll have Ravens and Pittsburgh.
Ooh,
in the NFC, you have Washington versus the Eagles. And in the AFC, you have the Broncos versus the Bills. Now, right now, this is just an early picture. But based on this setup, who do you think will maintain their position in the playoffs? And also, if you keep track of this, who do you think will be able to advance to the AFC title game?
That's the thing. Here's the thing, man. Divisional playoff games are hard. Because that means this is the third time you've seen this team.
Yeah.
And it is hard to beat a team 3 times. It is really difficult to beat a team 3 times. Especially if you didn't beat them the first 2 times, Ravens. All right. You need to get it together. I don't know if they can beat the Steelers, especially if it's in Pittsburgh, because that's what it's going to be. If the Steelers win that division, it'll be in Pittsburgh. And I don't think they can do it. I'm not with that defense. I think offensively they can do it, but I don't think defensively they can hold up, especially when that crowd starts going and that pressure starts to get to you, man. So I think the Steelers would edge out the Ravens right now. I think Green Bay would beat Seattle. The most interesting game you mentioned is Broncos-Bills. Because as good as the Bills have looked, I don't know, man. The Broncos look kind of solid, and they don't have any tape on Bo Nix.
They got the whole season.
Yeah, his rookie season. They could switch things up, all right? I don't know, man. Buffalo looked good, but so does Denver. They look decent. I don't know. That's a tough one for me. I'm going to lean towards Buffalo because I think the better quarterback usually does win in the playoffs. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Bills a pass on that one. Who was the other game? The Eagles and who? Washington?
The Washington Commanders.
I don't think Washington's winning that game. I think Jaden's inexperience, his first time in the playoffs, might be a lot for him. And I think it might be a little overwhelming. I also don't really fully believe in Dan Quinn. So, no. I think the Eagles edge them out. They're the better team. Who are we missing? Does the Eagles win?
The Eagles win.
Green Bay wins.
Green Bay. Okay, so in that regard, if Green Bay wins, the Eagles win, and they'll play each other in the divisional game. And of course, there's the Vikings and Falcons. The winner of that game will be playing Detroit.
I think Vikings would take that. I don't think the Falcons will win in that game. Sorry, Falcons, but Vikings Detroit would be a much better game for the NFL anyway. So.
I mean, right now, the way things are playing out, like you said, single games, right? Anything can happen.
Single games are wild. while. Yeah, one mistake is all it takes to turn a game around.
Man, you're right about that.
Momentum is real.
Mentioned before, the Vikings, not for nothing, Case Keenum took them to an NFC Championship game. Remember, folks, that was the whole reason Kirk Cousins got the guaranteed contract anyway. Because the Vikings felt like, we got here with Case Keenum. We should be able to get further with Kirk Cousins, and they ain't never been there since.
Yeah, because they did get to the NFC title game, and then they got shellacked by Nick Foles and the Eagles. Bad.
I do want to point this out, though. John Harbaugh, Ravens coach, has a notable track record in the fourth quarter. It has been pointed of concern for his Baltimore Ravens in recent season. Between 2021 and 2022 seasons, the Ravens were leading in the fourth quarter in 6 games that they ultimately lost. John Harbaugh has a tendency of losing fourth quarter games when leading by 10 points or more.
So he's the AFC Kyle Shanahan?
Essentially. Yeah, essentially.
But
in recent fourth quarter performances raising questions. Oh, yeah. Okay. Historically, Harbaugh is one of the longest tenured and most successful coaches in the NFL, but recent fourth quarter performances has raised questions about in-game adjustments and executions late in games. I got to get more specifics in this. But, yeah, he has not been the best when it comes to late game situations.
That's not a good look, especially going into the playoffs.
No, it isn't.
Because in the playoffs, you got to be able to close out a game. If you can't close out, you're not going to win. Like, unless you have a 4-score lead or something, and even then, could be in jeopardy. I've seen a team lose by 4 scores and then come back and win in the same game. Chargers. All right. Now, granted, that was not Jim Harbaugh's Chargers. I don't think he would let that happen. Speaking of, who were they playing? You said Chargers would play the Texans?
Texans. Yeah, the Texans.
Oh, yeah. Texans are losing that game. They're losing. I don't believe in them at all. I have no faith in the Texans. And I hate to say that because I like D'Amico Ryans. He's a defensive guy, and they look bad on defense. They don't look good. But more concerningly, and the fact that no one's talking about this, I guess, is just because it's his sophomore slump. But, like, over the past 3 games, C.J. Stroud has only thrown 2 touchdowns. Like, that's not a good look. Like, you got to start scoring, man. Like, come on. You got a team around. You got Nico Collins back. You got Tank Dell out there. You got Joe Mixon out there. Why you guys can't score? What's going on? Who's the offensive coordinator for the Texans?
Oh, the offensive coordinator is Bobby Slowick.
Bobby Slowick. Yeah, he's the former assistant on the Niners. He just took them with him. Okay, yeah.
He's pass specialist, offensive assistant, and passing game coordinator. Well, he's been the 49ers since 2017.
Yeah, he was Kyle's guy. Yeah, he came in with Kyle.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's the offensive coordinator, if that means anything.
He got elevated to offensive coordinator when he left San Francisco. Yeah, he's not very good at it right now. I don't know if he just doesn't have a good scheme or doesn't have a good plan, but they don't look like a good 7. They're like 7-5 right now?
Right now they're 8-5.
8-5.
Yeah, but they're playing in a bad division. I mean, as far as the offensive ranking goes, they're 12th. As far as defensive ranking goes, they're 13th.
That doesn't mean anything. Because the Titans were like 1 on defense.
Yeah, that meant absolutely nothing for anyone.
That blew my mind when I saw it. I was like, how are they this good, but they're not winning?
Oh, because they can't score. They have a bad second half team. If games ended after the first 2 quarters, well, the Titans would have a positive record right now.
That's why if games ended after the first half, Kyle Shanahan would be one of the worst coaches in the league. We go into the half losing a lot.
I tell you, it's such a horrible situation. All right. You
can't close it out, man. You got to be able to finish, especially this time of year. You can't just mess around and play a half of football and hope your team just kind of figures it out in the second half.
Well, we're this deep into the whole season. Out of curiosity, because there's always the early season picks. But now that we're in the late season, who do you have going to the Super Bowl and possibly winning it all?
I really don't just want to put the Chiefs back in the Super Bowl, but until somebody beats them, I don't know who you're not going to have in the Super Bowl besides them. It's a cool story to say the Bills, but they haven't gotten there yet. They can't get past the Chiefs. That is their problem. Now, if they can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, then I think the Bills win the Super Bowl, because at that point, you've defeated the monster, and at this point, you just have to defend the realm. All right. But
that's the way of putting it.
I think the more interesting story is who's going to get there on the NFC side. Because right now, the two best teams are the Lions and the Eagles in the NFC.
Right now. That is true.
And the Lions have a better story. They have the Cinderella story. They have the America's going to have them as their team. The Eagles have been here before, but they have a less likable coach. They don't have the heartwarming story that the Lions do. And they're going to have to go into Detroit to do that. And I don't think they can win in Detroit. I don't. So right now, as weird as it's going to say, I think the Super Bowl would have to – my pick right now would be Chiefs-Lions.
Chiefs-Lions. Some say that should have been a Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
But they figured Dan Gamble got them out of there.
Some people said last year should have been Niners-Ravens, and both of those teams did not make it. So one team made the other one didn't.
The Ravens really didn't play their game in the NFC Championship. AFC, they did not play their game. I don't know what that was all about.
Lamar throwing the ball in triple coverage is not Lamar. I don't know what that was.
Shenanigans. But that's not what this is about. I'm not going to point conspiracy theories. Not trying not to, at least.
No, Lions Chiefs is my number one pick for the Super Bowl. Bills Eagles is also up there. And I have a dark horse Super Bowl too. All right.
Oh, who is this?
My dark horse Super Bowl is currently the Chargers and the Packers is my dark horse Super Bowl right now. You don't like the Packers. You don't like the Packers.
I don't think the Packers are that good, at least not good enough to make the – I saw the Packers last year, and I've seen them some this year. I'm not believing in them. I don't. And I like the Packers as a franchise.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I think they may just be the third best team in their own division right now.
You know, other analysts have the Packers going to the Super Bowl too. Particularly a Chris Broussard has them going to the Super Bowl.
I hear you. Give me 1 second here, okay?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right, so I understand you like the Packers, and that's cool. I do like the Chargers. I like that pick most definitely. Now I don't know about to make the Super Bowl because, the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's the Chiefs.
Possibly the Bills. I hear your concerns with the Ravens, though, because the Ravens don't have a strong enough defense where you feel like they can help get them to that place. But yeah, dude, I tell you, I got to see something more with the Packers before I could buy into that stock.
The Ravens couldn't beat the Chiefs when they had a top 5 defense. So I have no faith that they would beat them now.
Well, let's change the bit a little bit. Who's a team you feel like the Ravens can beat without any concern? That's a playoff contending team.
The Bills. They can beat the Bills.
Oh, okay.
Steelers won't give them trouble because that's divisional. They did lose to them. So who else to try? I think the Ravens could beat. They've beaten the Broncos. They throttled the Broncos like 41-10.
Do you think they continue that into the playoffs? That'll be a kind of a repeat.
Yeah, there's not a lot of teams that I think the Ravens would have trouble with in the AFC. The problem is that one big one kind of looms heavy over them. All right,
over the whole division or conference.
Yeah, because it looms heavy over Josh too. He can't beat Patrick in the playoffs. Like, they have to lose to someone in that divisional round if they stay at the number 1 seed. Because if the Bills overtake them and the Chiefs have to play a wild card game, I don't know. Maybe that extra game could slow them down a bit because they haven't had to play a lot of wild card playoff games. They've usually been the number 1 seed.
And then they'll have to be on the road a lot of that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I don't think they've been on the road for more than one playoff game.
No, they haven't. Oh, yeah, real quick, I meant to answer your question. You wanted to know the Chiefs' records against the Steelers and Russell Wilson.
Yeah, that is correct.
2-0, both. Wow. They never lost to the Steelers. They never lost to Russell Wilson. But they only had 2 meetups.
To be fair, I'm about to say, to be fair, who was the Steelers quarterback in this time frame? The ghost of Ben Roethlisberger?
Oh, Mason Rudolph, I believe.
Yeah, see, no, I'm not here for that. All right. The man got his head bashed in by Myles Garrett. He ain't been the same ever since.
No, he
He
hasn't.
ain't beating Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, these meetups were in September 16, 2018, week 2,
That was
Chiefs
his
42
MVP
to
year.
73.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was his MVP campaign. And the other one was 2021. The Chiefs beat the Steelers 36 to 10. Mahomes threw 258 yards, 3 touchdowns without an interception in a dominating win.
Yeah, those were a long time ago. They didn't. I don't even know if they had TJ Watt then.
Yeah. Not only are they 2-0 against the Steelers, Patrick Mahomes is 9 touchdowns with 0 interceptions in 2 games.
Yeah, he was also undefeated against the Broncos until Russell Wilson got there.
So, there's a difference maker, huh? Right there. Let the man cook. He can put down the Mahomes kingdom, I guess.
He was not cooking in Denver. It was the atmosphere. It's too high up, Mile High Stadium. Couldn't breathe. Yeah.
Rare air. Can't get that congestion going here.
I don't know, man. It feels like the only way we get because in all honesty, I would have no issue having a Ravens-Bills AFC title game. But I don't see how that's possible unless someone takes out the Chiefs. And I don't even know if it has to be one of them. Someone's got to take them out now.
If the playoffs begin today, like I mentioned, it will be the winner of the Chargers and Texas game that will play the Chiefs. So it'll come down to one of those two teams if
Texas
they were to
do it. I don't think so.
I like you. Probably be the Chargers be your best bet.
Chargers have been one of the only teams to, I think, beat Patrick Mahomes more than once in their division.
I believe so.
Because they lost to the Raiders twice because they lost last Christmas and then they lost one in like 2019, I think, or something. They lost to Derek Carr. I think he's only lost to the Broncos at one time, and that was last year. And I think the Chargers have beaten him twice, but both of those were in LA. They've never been in Arrowhead.
I'm going to see if I can just pull up his whole AFC West stat line. Well, stats against them. Denver Broncos. He's undefeated against the Broncos. He's outperformed. Can I get an actual record, though?
All right. Let's take a look here. Mahomes' record versus the Broncos. Mahomes' record versus AFC West.
Mahomes is 12-1 against the Broncos in the regular season. His only losses in 2023 season. He is 10-1 against the Raiders. His sole loss came in 2020 when the Raiders pulled off the upset in Arrowhead Stadium.
No, they lost last year. They lost on Christmas last year to the Raiders. That list might be out. Yeah. Remember, that was the whole thing. That was when their winning streak started. They lost on Christmas Day in a weird, fluky game to the Raiders, and they didn't lose again until this year against the Bills.
Previous season. And it says right here, Mahomes is 8-2 against the Chargers. Both losses occurred in the hard-fought matchup, showcase the Chargers.
That's the only team that's beaten them twice is the Chargers. And now they have a better defense than they've ever had before since they played them. So that would give me the only boost of confidence that they can beat them. Now, the real question that comes down to is, can Jim Harbaugh scheme better than Andy Reid? Or Steve Spagnuolo, I should say.
That is a really good question. And that is something we have to look forward to in that case. See, I got to tell you, I remember for Texas, again, the playoffs aren't fully set in stone yet. There can still be some moving and shifting because the wild card slots are still kind of up in the air. But I think for the most part, your top 5 teams are probably going to stay your top 5 teams.
Yeah.
I just don't see too much changing. Because, it's so many bad teams in the league. So many bad teams. I keep saying that. I just need to put this in reference. Go ahead.
Looking at Patrick Mahomes' record versus every division, and surprisingly, outside of his own, because obviously he usually would have the most losses in your own division. But outside of his own, the 2 divisions that he's lost the most to are the AFC South and the AFC East. He has 5 losses against them. He's 7-5 against the AFC South. He's 8-5 against the AFC East.
Interesting.
Against the NFC, though, he dominates against the NFC. 4-1 against the NFC East, 5-2 against the NFC North, 7-2 against the NFC West, 9-0 against the NFC South.
9-0. Wow, look at that. Ain't a team in the South that he can't beat, apparently.
But you know who doesn't scare Patrick Mahomes? The AFC North, 11-3 against the AFC North.
Interesting.
He don't give a shit. He don't care if it's the Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, or the Browns. I don't care.
Interesting. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, okay, that's enough Patrick Mahomes. You talked about him.
If you want my personal opinion, I don't want the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I don't. I'm tired of seeing them in the Super Bowl. I've reached Patriots fatigue level with them. Right? I don't want to see them there anymore. I'm tired of seeing him. I'm tired of seeing Travis. I'm tired of seeing Taylor. I'm tired of all these stupid commercials. They got Andy Reid in. They need to retire that stupid Snickers commercial.
Yeah, they brought it back out. Great googly moogly. They brought it back.
Now they got some stupid Fumble Rooski or Bundle Rooski State Farm commercial where Andy Reid says it like 3 times. Ugh.
I've not seen that. Ugh. Don't want to see it either, quite frankly. Oh, well.
So no, it's enough. That's enough of that.
Oh, well. Well, I mean, other than that, there really isn't much to cover in this segment here. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and leave it, close out the rest of the show. But in case you guys are interested, don't worry. This will be the last time you see us. We'll be back again. We're going to be dropping in our predictions going into the next week as far as the matchups that will be happening, plus any other controversies and hot button topics. But as always, you can catch us on TikTok, maybe Instagram, hopefully Twitter, possibly Blue Sky. There's a lot we got to catch up on. But in the meantime, you can definitely catch us up on YouTube as well as TikTok. We'll be catching you out there in the interwebs. Till then, have a good rest of your day.
Peace. Yeah, I got a hot button topic.